Here, no political correctness and no wokeism. You're listening to Underground USA.
Thanks for downloading, listening, and sharing. My name is Frank Salato, and you're spending a few moments in Underground USA. Before we get into the America's Third Watch segment, I want to touch on something that I will be writing on in the coming days, and that's the Democrat Party's advocacy of their candidates being on both sides of every issue. It's becoming quite obvious that this is their game plan going forward into the 2024 general election. If you watched the CNN Harris Walz interview, and if you did, I feel your pain for not being able to get that time back, then you have come to realize three things as facts. First, they're champions at not answering the questions that are asked. From the very first question about what she would do on day one, when she answered that she'd already laid out her policies. Really? Where? When? To who? And then she launched into the touchy-feely joy platitudes peppered with the historically Marxist-based buzzword forward.
If you are elected, what would you do on day one in the White House?
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you, first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people, I think that people are ready for a new way forward, in a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism. I think, sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation. And I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
So what would you do day one?
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families. There's the work that we're going to do that is about investing in the American family around affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now. So there are a number of things on day one.
From that to Tim Walz's absolute avoidance of answering the question about his act of stolen valor by saying it was a grammar issue. You know, for a former teacher, he butchered the concept of grammar in equating it to blatant lying, and then deflecting to his children and his dog.
Governor Walz, the country is just starting to get to know you. I want to ask you a question about how you've described your service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And the idea that you said that you were in war, did you misspeak as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English she told my grammar is not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog. I'm not going to do that. And the one thing I'll never do is I'll never demean another member's service in any way. I never have, and I never will.
From the first to the last, there wasn't a solid answer to any of Dana or Dana or Danae, or however Harris had to mangle her name, to any of Dana Bash's questions. Second, when they weren't busy not answering questions, they were taking both sides of the issue. Every question, but for the one about her Indian heritage and Trump calling her out for opportunistically emphasizing that she is black, she's actually Jamaican, and a descendant of slaveholders, by the way, to which she simply said, "Next question."
What I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
Literally every answer that she gave to every other question advocated for both sides of the issue. Perhaps the most egregious was her answer on the Israel-Hamas-Iran conflict, in which she said she was for Israel being able to defend itself, but supported the Palestinian people. Huh? What?
President Biden has tried unsuccessfully to end the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Would you do anything differently? For example, would you withhold some U.S. weapons shipments to Israel? That's what a lot of people on the progressive left want you to do.
Let me be very clear. I am unequivocal and unwavering in my commitment to Israel's defense and its ability to defend itself. And that's not going to change. But far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed.
But no change in policy in terms of arms and so forth.
No, we have to get a deal done. A deal is not only the right thing to do to end this war. I remain committed since I've been on October 8 to what we must do to work toward a two-state solution where Israel is secure and in equal measure the Palestinians have security and self-determination and dignity.
And her non-denial denial that she was for banning fracking before she was against it and is now, well, your guess is as good as mine. That was Olympian, and Paris 2024 Olympian at that.
In 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking. In 2019, I believe, at a town hall, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yes. So it changed in that campaign? In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
The one thing we did come to learn about Harris's intentions, should, God forbid, they find enough ballots after midnight to win the cheat, was coming to us in the third thing we learned from the interview. Harris has recommitted to her values and principles, which her record and actions prove her to be a committed Marxist.
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. My value around what we need to do to secure our border, that value has not changed. My values have not changed.
So the big point here is the tactic of duplicity, which I will discuss more in depth in the coming days. It's calculated and being done on purpose because, as they'd say on the south side of Chicago, they got nothing. And really quick, the movie Reagan, starring Dennis Quaid and Penelope Ann Miller, among others, opens in theaters today, August 30th. After listening to Quaid and Miller's interview on The Megyn Kelly Show, it sounds like a must-see. And the fact Facebook tried like hell to shadow ban it makes me want to see it even more. You can find out where it's playing and buy tickets at www.reagan.movie.com. When we come back, our segment on America's Third Watch, broadcast nationally from our flagship station, WGUL AM 860 and FM 93.7 out of Tampa, Florida.
You're listening to Underground USA.
Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Whenever they're asked a question about their proposed policies, they never give a straight answer. In fact, when they do give an answer, they take both sides of the issue.
In 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
In 2019, I believe, at a town hall, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
How are the voters supposed to know what they actually stand for?
Let me be very clear. I am unequivocal and unwavering in my commitment to Israel's defense and its ability to defend itself. And in equal measure, the Palestinians have security and self-determination and dignity.
Maybe that's the point.
Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
My values have not changed.
Our First Amendment right, free speech, is under attack by woke activists and politicians. Wokeism seeks to suppress opinions and ideas that are deemed offensive, insensitive, or problematic, thereby stifling the free exchange of ideas and the pursuit of truth. It emphasizes social justice, identity politics, political correctness, and the regulation of language, and relies on euphemisms and ambiguous language to create the illusion of consensus, thus avoiding confrontation with opposing viewpoints. Wokeism is antithetical to free speech because it stifles the free exchange of ideas and the pursuit of truth. This is in direct opposition to the principles of free speech. Wokeism is an ideological cancer shopped by those who want to control you. This November, we have an opportunity to render wokeness to the ash heap of history. Vote smart. Vote against wokeness and those who would use it to control you.
And, we have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke.
News, insight, passion. AM 930, The Answer.
Well, we have, like I said, it's chock full, but obviously, what everybody's talking about is this interview. What was your evaluation of all this?
Well, I learned three things from that interview. One is that they are champions at not answering the questions that are asked.
Yep.
It was stunning. Not one question was answered. And I'll give it to Dana or Danny or Donnie or however she said the woman's name, Dana. I'll give her credit. The questions, they weren't really incredibly softball except for like the last couple. She did ask some questions that needed to be answered, but they were Olympian in not answering the questions that were asked. Number two, when they did answer a question, they took both sides of the issue. Mm-hmm. She asked, "What about Israel? Are you gonna continue the policy of not giving, withholding weaponry and support in certain instances?" Well, I support Israel and I support the Palestinians. What?
Yeah,
I support Israel and I support the Palestinians. And number three, she admitted point blank, without any shadow of a doubt, that she is going to continue doing what she's always done throughout her entire life because her values haven't changed. So, if you examine her record and you examine how she has performed throughout her entire public career, we're going to get a big heaping help of Marxism.
Yeah. Well, you're exactly right. I thought, Frank, that there's this huge buildup. And so for almost 40 days and 40 nights, essentially, she's been training and getting ready and going to have an interview at some point. And this is what we got. This was a big dud.
This is exactly what they wanted to give you.
Yeah.
Nothing. They want this to be about feelings and emotions, hope and joy and forward. They don't want it to be about, well, what is your stance on Israel? Well, I'm for the Israelis and I'm for the Palestinians. What's your stance on energy? Well, I'm for the Green New Deal and I'm for fracking. Oh, what's your stance on immigration? Well, I'm for secure borders and making sure that we have open borders. She's going to take both sides of every issue so that no one has any answers, so that it's about joy and forward and turning the page. Oh, and by the way, Donald Trump is bad.
Yeah, Donald Trump's bad. And even on CNN, I think it was Scott Jennings who talked about how after the interview, that Kamala Harris knew all about Joe Biden. He kind of brought that up. And then one of the CNN panelists there says, well, that's just going backward. Nobody wants to do that. They just want to go, like you said, forward, And it's like, well, wait a minute. This is one of the biggest controversies in American history. But that's just going backwards.
Yeah, we don't. The next question, please.
Right.
Next question, please. Donald Trump wants to know why you're playing the race card here, and the race card you're playing is black. The next question, please.
Yep, exactly. And then Tim Walz, trying again with this grammatical error stuff, is to me just insulting. He tried to use the school shootings as a smokescreen for his own deception, I think, and then also, of course, this notion that he would never question somebody else's military record, therefore nobody could question his. All these setups are just so ridiculous.
And his kids love him and don't talk about his dog.
Right.
So okay, I looked at my girlfriend CJ and I said, "What? Did we learn anything here? Did we learn anything here?" And the only thing I could come up with were those 3 points, that they have become champions at not answering questions, and when they do, they're on both sides of the question. And that's the game plan. That's the game plan going forward. As she said, 68 days. She's got to do this for 68 days. It took her 40 days to do one interview.
Yeah.
And she's going to be on both sides of every issue so that she doesn't have to explain anything. What are you going to do your first day? First day in the job. What's day one look like for you? Well, I've outlined everything that I'm going to do, and we think it's wonderful that we're going to address this, and this. Yeah, but what are you going to do?
Nothing that we're telling you at this point. One of the questions I wanted to ask you this morning is that, after seeing this interview, and yes, and I totally agree, they're trying to play both sides. They're just trying to get across that finish line. But, there have been people who have said, well, she's going to do very well in a debate against Donald Trump. After watching this interview, could that even, are we concerned about that at this point? I mean, I don't think that she seems as formidable, in terms of going up against Donald Trump.
Oh, she's not. And all Donald Trump's team has to do is gear him up to do exactly what Joe Biden in 2020 did to him, and that's goad him with questions. If Donald Trump goads her with questions that are steeped in statistics and fact, and ends every segment that he has when his mic is turned on with a question that pokes at her, you will eventually get a word salad answer out of her, because it's going to frustrate her. Mm-hmm. She's got, they talk about Donald Trump having a problem with ego, And that was the game plan, was to goad him with questions, goad him with name calling, pick, poke, poke, until he gets ticked off enough, and then he's going to say something, and that's when Donald Trump becomes his worst enemy. But Kamala Harris's ego makes Donald Trump's look bashful.
Yeah.
So if you pick at her and throw questions at her that she just can't help but want to answer, she just can't help but want to answer, and she gets more upset with what with her mic is off. She can't interrupt him. She can't say, "I'm talking now."
Right. See, and that would be her tactic. Exactly.
Get her to that point, and you will have word salad fest. So I'd be pivoting. He's got to do it with a little panache, though. He's got to do it so that it doesn't sound like he's being disrespectful. He's got to sound presidential. And he can't come across as if he's attacking a woman. That's what they're hoping for. So he's got to stick with the facts, stick with her record. No matter what the issue is, twist it back to her record. And something that is particularly negative about her record, and there's enough of that, but just tweak it back to that, to pick at her. She's going to lose it eventually, and she's going to go word salad, and that's a win.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And there's going to be, I've said earlier, millions and millions of people will be watching this, and they're going to be watching to see how this all goes again. Are we going to have not a direct repeat, but they're going to be watching to see if Donald Trump can pull off what he did against Joe Biden. The last debate he did, the guy got kicked off the ballot, for goodness sakes.
Let's face it. All these things are good for our defining moments and gotcha sound bites for later. The reason that people were so astounded by the last debate was because Biden crashed and burned.
Yeah.
They were wondering if he was going to do it. He did it in real time, and they watched the accident happen in slow motion. They want the same entertainment. They want to see if Kamala Harris is going to crash and burn and go to word salad mode. They want to see it. And they're seeing the two cars come at each other head on right here, and that's the outcome that they want to see in the end. That's what they want to see. So all Donald Trump all he's got to do is give the audience what it wants. Mm-hmm. Facilitate that transformation from rehearsed puppet to Kamala Harris. Because it can happen, but that has to come with the poke, and it has to come with him looking like he's not being disrespectful, but just pulling back the curtain.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on the money, Frank. And then Dana Bash actually asked Kamala Harris, "Will you put a Republican in your cabinet?" And she went on about how, well, she's always looked for differences of opinion and diversity, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, oh, my goodness. Does she think we're buying this?
I believe Mitt Romney's looking for a job.
Right.
Let's put Mitt Romney on there. Maybe we can dig up John McCain and put him on there. Find the biggest rhino, and that's the one I'll put on my cabinet. I've got nobody in mind specifically. I'm still looking at their records to see who voted with the Democrats most often. Maybe Mitch McConnell.
Well, Mike Johnson was asked, I think not too long after that, I think on Fox News, he was asked, did Kamala ever call you over to the White House and ask your opinion about stuff for a diverse, viewpoint?
Yeah, the more I think about it, since you asked the question, I've got to think Mitch McConnell's good. You got a bill going that is going to move out of the House that says we should have voter ID, and we can pass it right now. Guess who opposes it in the Senate? Mitch McConnell. So maybe Mitch McConnell will be under cabinet.
Yeah. I mean, this is just, it was 18 minutes, but it was so chock full of stuff that, I mean, it's non-stuff. It's not really saying anything, we had a great caller earlier to the program too, Frank. John in Sarasota, he said it so well. He said, she said nothing of value, that we just, we can't latch on to anything.
She said non-stuff.
Yeah.
She said non-stuff. David Plouffe and the handlers transformed her word salad into a higher class word salad. Now I can answer a question, take both sides of the issue, say nothing, and shake my head and appear as though I answered your question. They're not going to answer any questions. They're not going to give you any specifics on their policies. They want, and like I said, they want this to be about hope, joy, and forward. Turn the page. Donald Trump is bad. That's their whole battle plan right there.
Yep.
So Trump needs to stay the course. He's done an incredible pivot since the bullet pierced his ear to somebody who is a little bit more measured, a little bit more calm. The name calling is actually decreased a little bit. I wish it would disappear completely. And he's sticking with the facts. And if he can pepper those facts with facts about her record in that debate, and moving forward, his campaign spending the campaign money on commercials that define Kamala Harris and define the narrative, because that's what they're definitely trying to do, is they're trying to define their candidate without telling you who she really is and what she stands for, and change the narrative. And if we don't let them change the narrative or control the narrative, we got a chance at hitting that 20% buffer zone we need in the polls in order to make sure they can't cheat. But we got to hit that 20%. We're not there.
Yeah, you're right about that. And David Axelrod, soon after that, he was one of the CNN panelists. He was trying to say, look, the VP doesn't make policy, and then there's some other headline I saw earlier today, somehow that the Trump campaign or others are trying to, quote, tether Kamala Harris to the Biden-Harris administration. Where do we go through the looking glass on this thing? Isn't she part of the administration?
Well, her name's on it. I mean, that's that, and she pushed the idea that she spent so much time with Joe Biden in the Situation Room, in the Oval Office. She's hanging her hat on that one. I was the last one in the room on so many major decisions. That narrative's not going to work. That she was just oblivious to what was going on. That's she worked too hard to say the opposite. She's invested in this, and that's just the way this goes.
Oh yeah. But if the perception could be, well, she's running against Donald Trump, and if she could just become president, she could stop Donald Trump and everything that he's doing right now. I mean, that's the weird perception of it.
You heard the answer Dana Bash asked. You've been in office for 3.5 years, and it was pretty much hope, joy, forward.
That's right. Happy, joy.
If you like the podcast, please rate it and comment if your platform lets you. Go over to undergroundusa.com and subscribe to the Substack, and pick up your copy of Nullification, available on Amazon. But more importantly, talk to your friends, family, colleagues, and acquaintances about politics and religion. Do it calmly and employ facts over emotion. You'll be surprised how much you have in common with a great many of those you talk to. It's something we can all do to preserve the Republic. My name is Frank Salvato, and you're listening to Underground USA.
When someone is having a stroke, every minute counts. Just as putting out a fire quickly can stop it from spreading, treating a stroke quickly can reduce damage to the brain. The clock begins ticking as soon as you spot the signs of a stroke, because some treatments can only be used if the patient reaches the hospital in the first 3 hours after symptoms appear. So don't wait. Call 911 right away and get the person to a hospital immediately, even if the symptoms go away. If you think someone is having a stroke, remember the word FAST. F is for face. Ask the person to smile and check whether one side of their face is drooping. A is for arms. have the person raise both arms and see if one arm drifts downwards. S is for speech. Ask the person to repeat a short phrase and notice if their words sound slurred. And finally, T is for time. If you spot any of these signs, call 911 right away to get the person to a hospital fast. Strokes are medical emergencies. The sooner a patient gets treatment, the better their chance of a good recovery.